Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. Are we live? We are live. Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. It is Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach, here for another Sunday of You've Guessed It, the Success Starter series. Y'all know we go live each and every Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about different topics that are all around the ultimate topic of setting your week up for success, because in setting your week up for success, you're doing your part to set your week and your life up for success. As your productivity and accountability coach, I'm all about helping you to find that hidden time in your day, time that you can pour into yourself while you pursue your goals, your purpose, and your life passions while still maintaining your current responsibilities. And as we work on transitioning, and I'm transitioning, I'm also working on being more specific about who it is I'm looking to help and how it is I'm looking to help you. But as we continue to journey through the month of November and continuing our conversations and our topic, we are going to talk today about boosting your boundaries, because without boundaries, you're not going to be able to prioritize yourself. And y'all know the theme for November is all about falling back into you and prioritizing yourself. So today I want to talk to you guys about boundary boosts, protecting your energy and protecting your time like a pro. And I get it, you're not a pro, but you're going to be. We're going to learn it, we're going to walk through it, we're going to work through it together. And using the Lee method, the method that's in my book, Lee's Laws of Productivity, and pretty much what it is that I teach and coach from, even when I don't say it's the Lee method, it's the Lee method. It's all about looking, examining, and creating a plan to execute. So as we talk about and as we think about boosting your boundaries, we're going to go through three things. We're going to use the lead method. So we're going to hit 3 points, and we're going to be in, we're going to be out, we're going to be out of here. And so when you think about boundaries are not only a means of protection, but they're also a way of freeing up your time, creating time. Because if we're talking about uncovering hidden time, finding hidden time, and finding time to prioritize yourself, to pursue your goals, your purpose, and your life passions, while still maintaining those current responsibilities and without the overwhelm, we have to have systems in place to do that. And a boundary is a type of system that lets you know where you can give, where to take, and where to say yes, what to say yes to and what to say no to. So when you think about how can I boost my boundaries, and in boosting my boundaries, what is going to be the result of that? In creating boundaries, and not only in creating them, but in enforcing them and establishing them, you're thereby able to protect your energy. And in protecting your energy, you're also protecting your time. And so that's kind of where the title and the theme for today comes from. And so when you start thinking about boosting your boundaries, the first thing you need to do is figure out where do I need boundaries? And you can have boundaries in multiple areas of your life, whether that be at work, in business, in life, in relationships, in your nutrition, and what you say, like your working hours, in terms of like, I don't say yes to things before this or after this, or whatever that might look like. And so for you to identify or to look to figure out where do I need boundaries, you need to figure out where is there a struggle. So the best way to see where you need boundaries is to see where boundaries are lacking. And the way that you're going to figure out where are boundaries lacking, you're going to identify and look to figure out where is it that you need help. And when I talk about needing help, I'm talking about like, where is it that you find yourself struggling the most? Like if we look at work, for example, do you find yourself struggling because you overcommit to things, because you're saying yes to helping and jumping on each and every project? So do you need to be firmer with your boundaries about the number of projects that you're willing to work on at any given time, because you can see what your capacity is and what your time looks like? At home, do you need to set boundaries around how often you're saying yes to things? Like for me, I go to bed at 8:30. So if you invite me to something that starts after 8 o'clock, most likely the answer is going to be no. Why we need to go out that late? Why? I need to sleep. If I can't get a nap in, especially before going, oh no. Now, if it ends after 8:30, that's different. Now, if it started, I need to be out the house. I need to be out the house before the start time. Before the end time. I need to be out the house before 8 o'clock. I can't be leaving to go somewhere at 8 o'clock. We're not about that life no more. But for real, like when you look at your life, like, okay, we talked about home, we talked about work. What about within yourselves? Where is it that you need boundaries? Are you a people pleaser? Are you a yes person? Do you find yourself saying yes to things, whether that be at work, at home, in friendships and relationships, whatever the case may be, Where do you need boundaries? Where is it that you find yourself struggling? Where is it that you're lacking? Because when you identify the areas that you're lacking in boundaries, or if you identify the areas where you're struggling, that can help to identify an area that you need a boundary in. And so that takes care of the L in the Lee method. Look to see where do I need boundaries, or look to see where I need to edit my boundaries. Look to see what boundaries do I have that are or are not serving me. And so if you can figure out where your boundaries are lacking, now we can take the step to figure out how to set and reinforce boundaries in those areas. Because the thing is, you might have boundaries in those areas, but you might not have been enforcing them. So you didn't let them bend all kinds of ways. So now you need to reinforce them. Or you might see that I don't have boundaries in these areas, so let me set them. And so this is going to be the examination phase. You're going to examine and see, do I have boundaries in this area? Okay, I said that, if it started after this time, I wasn't going to say yes to it, especially on a weeknight. The only time I would potentially say yes to something starting after 8 something is if it's on a weekend, because I don't have to wake up the next morning and go to work. Okay, that falls within this. I need to reinforce that boundary because I see that I've been lacking. And an example that I can use in my own personal life, like outside of the not saying yes to things, is the time that I get off my phone. So I typically go to bed at about 8:30-ish. And really, 8:30-ish is my wind down time. So 8:45 I'm supposed to be off social media, and 9:15 supposed to be off my phone, because normally I'll lay in bed and play like a puzzle game or play one of the games, like one of these 3 games that I play every day on my phone. And so I found that before I was enforcing those boundaries, I found that when it was time for me to wake up with my alarm and go off at 2:30 in the morning, I would be struggling. And then once I started realizing, what's the common denominator? Yes, I was in bed at 8:30. I was in bed at 8:45. I was in bed at the time, but I stayed scrolling social media, sending reels, watching reels that my friends sent me, or playing this game on my phone till 9:30 and after. Of course, 2:30 gonna come real rough. But once I started enforcing that boundary, social media 8:45, that gives me 15-20 minutes to wind down. So by 9:15, I'm done with my puzzle games. I'm off the phone. When 2:30 comes, I wake up without any problem. And so that was a boundary that I had, and then I set it literally as a goal for a month to where I would be off. I think I changed the time a little bit. I think it was 8:30 and then 8:45 for off the phone. And so then once I saw that, okay, this entire month I did not struggle to wake up, I made it a boundary instead of just a goal for that 1 month. And so I adjusted it to where it was something that was more realistic for me on a day-to-day basis instead of just a month. Because at the time, I had softball practice, so softball will often end because at that time, before daylight savings time, it didn't get dark till 8, so oftentimes we would be out there pretty much till it got dark, so 8-ish. So by the time I left there, drove back home, got out of the clothes, got cleaned up to get ready for bed, it was almost 8:45. I still needed to record my nightly story and then wind down. And so that was how I created the adjustment to where this is now my boundary. Do I break that? Rarely. And if I do, it's typically the weekend, and even with the weekend, I'm still pretty close to it. It might be 9:30 versus 9:15, but I also wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock on the weekend instead of 2:30. So even with that 15-ish extra minutes that I'm giving myself, I'm still having 2 more hours to sleep in. So it works. And so that's how you can do the examination phase. Okay, I see that this is an issue. How can I, what are the ebbs and flows that I'm willing to create within this boundary? And so once you can identify that I need a boundary in this area, or I have a boundary in this area, but I haven't been enforcing it, you can figure out, do I need to set a boundary, or was there a boundary there and I just got lax in the enforcement of it, and now I need to enforce it more? And so even with this, I go to bed at this time, I started putting my phone, it automatically does, it goes into nighttime mode. And so after a certain time, it phone rings, but it's just on silent. And so if I see it on my watch, I might answer it. And if not, I don't. Typically, everybody know I go to bed at this time now, so they're not calling me. And so it was a boundary that I had to enforce. And so before, I didn't put my phone on nighttime on, which means if people called me, it would wake me up, or I would hear it, and so I would answer it. And so you have to then go into that last phase, that execution phase, communicate that boundary. So if we use that same boundary, if I go to bed at this time, and my dad, he's a nighttime person. Well, he get up at weird hours, but he would sometimes call me, like that's when he's winding down for the night. So like he would call to check in, and he'd be like, "Why you sound tired?" Because I'm in bed. And so it was like in enforcing it, like I would answer because don't want him to think anything's wrong. But in time, he was like, "Oh, every time I call her at this time of night, she sounds tired. She sounds sleepy." He realized that this was really the time that I went to bed. And so if you're trying to have a long conversation with me, it's probably not gonna happen because my brain is shutting down. I'm in bed. I'm winding down. So he would start calling earlier, and then even with like calling earlier, if he sees that it's getting closer, like the 8:30ish time, like okay, I'm gonna let you go. I know you're gonna get ready to start winding down for bed. Like or you know you might hear me like I don't want to say banging around in the kitchen, but like filling my cup up with ice, getting everything, doing that wind down part to go to bed. And so you need to communicate your boundaries. This is where the execution phase comes in. You identify where you need a boundary. You see that you've had one and you've got lax in it or you're creating one. And now you're going about executing that boundary. To execute a boundary, you have to communicate it. Now, there are some things you don't have to tell people up front, like, don't invite me out after 8:30. I'm going to say no. You can just let it happen and then you can decide if this is a situation like where I'm saying yes or where I'm saying no. Like, I don't just ignore the phone calls if it comes after that time. I can look and decide, is this something I need to answer for or not? By now, because I've been going to bed at this time for years, it's rare that people call me. One time my niece called me and she was like, "Oh, Tanti, you're not sleepy yet." And I'm like, "No, I'm getting into bed. What's up?" But it's like certain people who call. Not many people call me. My phone don't ring that often. And so if it's someone who's calling me at that time, it's probably something important or quasi-important, because I think the time my niece was calling me, it was important. It was about election. She was trying to figure out who to vote for. She was trying to go do her ballot. But you have to then, in the execution phase, communicate your boundaries. So how can you effectively communicate your boundaries without feeling guilty? No is a complete sentence. Above all else, remember that. No is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't have to tell them why this is your boundary unless you choose to. Why you go to bed so early? Do you know what time I wake up? Oh, okay, that makes sense then. So why do I not want to go out? I don't really want to people. Nothing good happens at this time of night. I don't know. Like, it's up to you how you communicate your boundary. You can communicate it affirmatively by saying, I don't do X, Y, and Z thing. Or when an opportunity presents itself, you can say no. You can say no with an explanation, or you can just say no. But it's up to you to communicate whatever boundary that you have in a way that you feel is in alignment. There are some people you might give an explanation to on that same boundary, where there are others that you don't. What does that look like for you? So when it comes to you protecting your time and protecting your energy, it's on you to do it. Because if you don't show up for yourself, no one else is going to understand that this is important to you, and they're not going to show up for you in that same way. So until you start creating, setting, and enforcing your boundaries and communicating them and enforcing them on your own, no one is going to be willing to stand up and enforce your boundary. There are times my friends have told me, like, "Hey, we doing this. I know you're probably going to say no because it's past your bedtime, but want to at least extend the olive branch to you. Or I know you're not going to really drive that far, but I'm just letting you know." Thank you. Thank you for the invite, and thank you for also understanding that I'm probably going to say no. I appreciate you for that. And so it's up to you to decide and define what areas need boundaries. And I'm using some of these more simplistic examples because, number one, they're simple, but they also work. Boundary setting doesn't have to be complicated. In the same way that I set these boundaries in these quote-unquote simpler areas, they do have lasting impacts. Because me setting a boundary of the time I'm going to get off my phone and make sure that I'm in bed, and I'm off my phone, has an impact on how it is that I wake up in the morning. Because if I'm then struggling to wake up in the morning, I could be sluggish and lethargic throughout the day, or I end up falling asleep doing my morning routine like I was doing, or feeling like I need a nap in the morning after I just woke up, which then impacts the amount of time I have in my office to get work done on my business before working out and going to work. And so no, while me staying up late and waking up sleepy in the morning did not affect me getting to work on time, it affected the amount of time that I had to do some of the other things that I like to do before going to work. And so you have to decide and see that boundaries are important. Boundaries are habits, essentially, because these are things that you're doing or not doing on a consistent basis. It's a habit, and it's up to you to stick by your habits, enforce your habits the same way it's up to you to stick by and reinforce your boundaries. Excuse me. And so, what does that look like for you? How can you learn the Lee method, look, examine, and execute at each and every area of your life that you find that something's got to give? I don't like what's happening here. Something needs to give. You can use the Lee method to decide and define, where do I need a boundary? Where do I have a boundary that clearly isn't working or I'm not enforcing? And it could not be working because you're not enforcing it, or something has shifted into your life that you need to make changes. But no matter what it is, you can look, you can examine, and you can create a game plan to execute. But it's up to you to decide to do that. Now, if you're looking for help and support and accountability in going through this process, to truly walking you through the Lee method, to helping you to implement it in your life and being there in that execution phase for that added accountability to make those adjustments and shifts to create a boundary that truly works and will last for you, you can get my book, Lee's Laws of Productivity, off of Amazon, or you can comment the word book and I can send you the link, or you can comment help and you can reach out and you can book a personalized productivity audit. It's a free session. We can look at what it is and where's the biggest hurdle to your productivity, to your boundaries, to all of those things, because boundaries affect productivity. And we can create a game plan to work together to go about executing that. But whichever way you need support is up to you. So you can comment book or you can comment help, and we can go from there and having that support and that accountability. But think about boundaries, because boundaries are ultimately that secret sauce that's going to help you to reclaim your time, protect your energy, and be the best version of yourself and show up. And as we end this year and start going into next year, as you're thinking about the person that you want to be in 2025, the changes that you want to make, where and how are you going to start now with that? Doing an audit of your boundaries is a perfect place to start. Because in this time, holiday time, and sometimes when you got to really enforce boundaries around being around family and things like that, you don't want to get pulled in any which and every direction, unless besides the direction that you want to go in. So let's talk about how you can boost, how you can have a boundary boost, how you can protect your energy and protect your time like a pro, utilizing the Lee method. So it's been Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach, here for another Sunday of the Success Starter series. Like I said, we were talking about boosting your boundaries, protecting your time and your energy like a pro, using the Lee method to spot where boundaries are lacking or where you need to create them, figuring out how to set or reinforce boundaries that you have, and then creating a game plan to communicate what those boundaries are to other people. Use the Lee method, put it to work, boost your boundaries, and make the time and have the time that you need to be the best version of yourself. So until next week, guys, it's been Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach, here for another Sunday of, you've guessed it, the Success Starter series. I'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, as we continue to dive in and have the conversation around you protecting your time, protecting your energy, and all the things to make sure that you're becoming the best version of yourself. So if you haven't done your to-do list, if you haven't done your brain dump, it's time to do the work to set your week up for success. That's a boundary you need to put in place that you plan your week. Okay? Until next time, Coach Lee is out. Mm-hmm.